So is everyone ready? And the timer? Then let's begin. Citius, Altius, Fortius. Swifter, higher, stronger is the motto of the Olympics. In this speech, I'll be giving you a background of the Olympics in hopes to get you ready for the games this summer in August. Also, like the Apostle Paul, I hope to use the idea of Olympic competition to inspire you to go for the lasting crown in your lives. I'll begin by going into the history of the ancient Olympics. Then we will discuss their modern origin. From there, we will dive into the culture surrounding the Olympics, then take a look at what the games will be like this summer in Rio. Lastly, I'll tie in a spiritual aspect to the Olympics. Most of the information in this speech came from three sources: Swifter, Higher, Stronger by Sue Macy, Wikipedia.org, and the official Olympics website, Olympic.org. The first Olympics were held in 776 BC atop the plains of Olympia. Numerous sacrifices were made to Zeus as part of the ceremonies. All the Greek city-states participated and agreed to a 1-month truce during the war. During the games. For the first 12 Olympics, the only event was the 200-meter dash, and only men were allowed to compete. Married women were not even allowed as spectators. And all the male athletes competed in the nude, giving a new meaning to the term winning streak. And victors in each event were crowned with a wreath of greenery. But the Olympics were shut down in 393 AD because of their pagan origin and ritual. Nearly 1,500 years later, Frenchman Pierre de Coubertin led an effort to revive the games, this time not as any religious ritual, but as a worldwide festival of athletics. The first modern games were held in Athens, Greece, and the stadiums were built upon the original location of the games. Now, Coubertin did not want women to compete in the Olympics. He said, quote, "The games are the solemn and periodical exaltation of male athletics, with the applause of women as a reward," end quote. Thankfully, his wishes didn't prevail, and women were allowed to join the Olympics in the 1900 Games in Paris, France. In addition to women's rights, by looking at the history of the modern Olympics, we can trace the history of the modern world. Rise and fall of communism, racism, and even terrorism are examples we can get from the Olympics. The 1936 Games held in Berlin, Germany, were the first games to ever be televised. Hitler hoped to use these games to showcase the superiority of the Aryan race. His ideas were proven false when African-American Jesse Owens took home the gold. But he didn't give up those ideas, however, and the next two Olympics were canceled due to World War II. When the Olympics continued in 1948 in London, Germany and Japan were not even allowed as spectators because of their part as aggressors in the war. In the 1968 Games in Mexico City, Black athletes who won gold and silver medals in the 200-meter dash raised gloved fists in a symbol of Black power. The Olympic Committee was very upset that the medal podium would be used as a political platform of any kind, and they banned these two competitors from the competition. In the 1972 Games in Munich, Germany, one of the most shocking events in Olympic history occurred when Palestinian terrorists murdered Israeli athletes in an attack on the Olympic Village. The Olympics were also used as a tool in the Cold War. The 1980 Games were held in Moscow, Russia, and the United States boycotted them. In retaliation, the Russians boycotted the 1984 Games in Los Angeles. According to Cracked.com, McDonald's ran a promotion during the LA Olympics where they gave away free Big Macs when US won gold, free fries when US won silver, and free Coke when US won bronze. What seemed like a good idea at the time became one of the biggest financial disasters of all time because they had to give out way more free food than they anticipated, and they lost millions. But despite all these political posturing and all the wars, the Olympics have still endured and have done much to bring the world together. The Olympic game is steeped in symbolism and tradition, the most recognizable symbol being that of the 5 Olympic rings, which represent the 5 continents and the colors in all of the nation's flags. They're interlaced to show how the Olympics bring the world together. Another loved tradition is that of the Olympic flame. Every 4 years, the torch is lit in Athens, Greece, and then carried by relay of torch runners who each run 1 kilometer to the location of the games. The torch has even made it into space and been carried by underwater flare through the Great Barrier Reef. Another loved tradition is that of the opening ceremonies. They usually call for a parade of nations, with Greece going first. Then they continue in alphabetical order, except for the host country, which is always last. And they also call for a symbolic release of the doves to symbolize peace. But according to mentalfloss.com, the dove release turned into a Korean barbecue when many of the doves were in the area of a cauldron when it burst into flames. Now, white balloons are released to symbolize doves, symbolizing peace. There's also smaller ceremonies after each event is completed, where athletes are awarded gold, silver, and bronze medals. Flags are raised, and the gold winner's national anthem is played. At the very first modern Olympics in Greece, the athletes were awarded paintings instead of medals. And today's gold medal consists of mostly silver, containing only 6 grams of real gold. But while these medals are not worth their weight in gold, they're still highly valued. A gold medal awarded to the 1980 men's hockey team was auctioned off for more than $300,000. So if you happen to have an Olympic medal lying around, you might want to cash in. But seeing as less than 1% of the United States population has even been to the Olympics, I'd say your chances are very slim. This year's Games in Rio will be the first Olympics ever held in South America. When Rio's bid for the Olympics first went through in 2009, they estimated the cost of hosting to be $11.3 million. Now, costs are expected to exceed $2.3 billion. One major cost of these games has been cleaning up the extremely polluted waters of Guanabara Bay, where boating and swimming events will be held. The Rio Games will commence on August 5th and will be broadcast worldwide by NBC. New sports include kite surfing and rugby sevens. According to NBCSports.org, new athletes to look out for include Simone Biles, an 18-year-old gymnast who was homeschooled. She's so dominant in her field that she's the 2-time reigning world champion in women's gymnastics. Another athlete to look out for is Katie Ledecky, the youngest member of the 2012 U.S. Olympic team and the greatest female freestyle swimmer of all time. She's so dominant that there's talk of an exhibition match between her and Michael Phelps. Speaking of Michael Phelps, he's come out of retirement for these games and is said to be back and better than ever. Also, keep a lookout for Region 7 NCFCA competitor Walker Higgins. He's earned time trial slots for these Olympics. But why is it important to be an athlete to people like me who really don't do sports very well? The Bible uses the idea of Olympic competition to show us how we should live our lives. 1 Corinthians 9:24 says, quote, "In a race, all the runners run, but only one receives the prize. Run in such a way as to win the prize." But how do we do this? Hebrews 12:1-2 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, running the race marked out for us with endurance, setting our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of the faith." End quote. This passage implies that each of us has our own race, the race marked out for us. Running our race with endurance necessitates strict spiritual behavior. The Olympics set before us an idea, the idea of striving for a prize that is worth years of practice and self-denial. We watch the games and are inspired. The Apostle Paul also uses the idea of Olympic competition to remind us that God offers an eternal prize. 1 Corinthians 9:25 says, quote, "When an athlete enters the games, they go into strict spiritual training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever." I inspire you all to run in such a way as to win that everlasting crown. Thank you.